Thank you for all of the follows. This is incredible. And I feel like now I owe you another story. And this one might take two parts. So this is, I don't know, 10 years ago. And we lived about a quarter mile from my in-laws at the time. It's a work night. I'm pregnant. We're in bed. It's 11:30 and my father-in-law calls. My husband answers the phone and my father-in-law's crying on the other end. He says, "She's trying to kill me. You have to come help me." So we hop in the car. We race up to their house. And they live on a ranch. It's usually very well lit. The driveway is lit up. The house at the top is lit up. And it is pitch black. We can't see anything. So my husband gets out of the car and he calls out my father-in-law's name. He doesn't see anything. And then suddenly we see a figure emerge behind a bush. And it's my father-in-law, bawling his eyes out in only his boxers and a t-shirt. He runs to the car and he says, "Help me, help me. She's chasing me with a knife. She's beat me up. She's trying to kill me." We're like, what the fuck? My husband stays outside and I go in to check on my mother-in-law. And if my husband had not been with me, I would not have thought this was real because it was creepy. My mother-in-law was in a dark house in her nightgown, standing at the counter of the kitchen with a huge knife in her hand, dead eyes, the psychoest look on her face I have ever seen. And she just starts going off about my father-in-law. She is waving the knife around. And I'm not certain that she's not going to kill me. So I back up. I try to soothe her. I ask her to put the knife down. I don't go anywhere near her. My husband comes in. We're both talking to her. He finally gets her to put the knife down. I walk out to the car. He walks her to bed. My father-in-law's in the backseat of the car, a wreck. We take him to our house, put him in the guest bed, and we're up at like 5:30 the next morning. And he's already gone. Nothing is said to us. I ask about it the next day, ask if everyone's okay. I get blank stares. I'm told to stop asking. And then I'm told, "I don't know what you're talking about." When this was all over, I told my husband that this could never happen again. That I'm sorry they don't have any friends, but they can't call their kids in the night to fix their problems, especially when we have to work the next day and I'm pregnant. And what happened 3 weeks later? My father-in-law came to our door this time, drunk, asking if he could stay, saying they'd had a terrible fight. And all these years later, I'm going to admit that I'm not proud of this, but I told him, "No, you have to go. You cannot stay here." I thought maybe he'd go to a neighbor's house. He ended up driving like 10 miles to a hotel. Thank God he didn't kill himself or anyone else, but he never came back again. We never heard about their fights. They didn't use us to mediate. So in the end, it worked, but damn.
Crazy mother-in-law stories. The time my mother-in-law refused to leave my house. When my son was a month old, my mother-in-law asked to come over and see him. No problem there. We did have plans later that afternoon, so we told her that she did have to be on time or she wasn't going to get to see the baby because we had places that we had to be. If you've watched other videos about my mother-in-law, you know she's super on time to everything. 3 hours later, she shows up on our doorstep. "I'm sorry I'm late, son." "Mom, we have like 20 minutes before we have to go." "Well, at least let me come inside." We let her come inside. She stayed for about 20 minutes and then we packed up the car and told her we had to go. It was our first outing as brand new parents. We went to a park. It was a beautiful day. We were gone for a couple of hours, ran the errands that we were supposed to do, and then returned home. And sitting in my driveway was my mother-in-law. 3 hours later, guys. Still in my driveway. My husband got out of the car and said, "Mom, you need to go. Like, you can't just sit in my driveway." After screaming at him for 10 minutes in our front yard, she finally left.
Oh my God, do I have a messed up story time for you guys. It left me questioning humanity, honest to God. So I had a bride call me to make an appointment for her bridal party to place their order for their dresses. The bride let me know in advance that the maid of honor is actually going to chemotherapy after our appointment, so if I can get her taken care of first so she could be on her way and she could be, calm for that appointment. I said absolutely, by all means. I was even taken aback by the fact that this poor girl had to be going through that. So the maid of honor came in first for the appointment, and I started taking care of her. We started chit-chatting, just trying to make it all calm and, pleasant for her. As I'm taking care of the maid of honor, the bridesmaids start trickling in, the rest of the bridal party. The bride comes in, the mom of the bride, and so does the mother-in-law of the bride. Now we're pretty much done, me and the maid of honor, so I wanted to go ahead and send her on her way. I didn't want her to feel that she had to wait for me, but the girls started talking to her, chatting her up, just seeing how she was doing, the regular pleasantries, but at the same time showing true concern. However, it was evident that the mother-in-law of the bride didn't really know this poor girl very well. She just went ahead and started talking to her like normally, like you could, of course, talk to someone normally in the situation. But she's like, oh, don't worry. If you have faith in the Lord, He will make sure that you come out of this beautifully, that you will be alive and thriving. And you're going to be amazing. You're going to feel better than you did before you even went into this mess of cancer. I honestly didn't know what to say when I heard this. Everyone just stopped. Like a couple people even gasped. Now, mind you, I don't know where this poor maid of honor was in the process of her chemotherapy. She did have a handkerchief on her head, so I'm assuming that it's gotten to the point where she was already losing hair. You know, for anyone to come in and say something like that, I just thought it was kind of cold, but that was me. Fast forward 6 months. Bridesmaids' dresses all came in, and I called the bride and let her know, hey, you know, your bridesmaids' dresses are here. How's everything going? How's all your planning going? Let's set appointments up for all your girls. So the bride starts talking to me and tells me that unfortunately the maid of honor passed away. So she didn't survive. That's hard to hear. And so after back and forth, the bride explained to me what happened. And, you know, obviously I wouldn't be calling the family at that point. The bride said that she would be picking up her dress. No problem, I said. Let me know what I can do for you. If the family needs anything, let me know. I get a phone call from her mother-in-law, though. The bride's mother-in-law. And she says to me, oh, I told that girl she had faith that she would survive. She must have not been a believer. And I told the bride that she needs a backup bridesmaid because you never know these days with these girls. She didn't go to church, you know. She literally called me to tell me this because she wanted to pick up the dress and give it to somebody else to wear. How do you not lose faith in humanity when you hear that? I just can't with some people.
Crazy mother-in-law stories. My mother-in-law during COVID. My wonderful husband, Jesse, last talked to her around Thanksgiving, right in the middle of COVID. First of all, this is not us condemning anybody's beliefs on COVID or their experiences. This is just our personal one. It just shows how crazy my husband's mom is. During this conversation, my mother-in-law didn't even know that COVID was happening.
She was like, hey son, have you played any shows lately? Have you seen the news?
Basically, she was completely unaware that COVID was even happening, that things were closed down, or anything. That just goes to show how much this woman does not get out of her house.
I was like, Mom, how do you not know a global pandemic is happening?
I guess she said she didn't have time. She was reading too many books.
To even watch the news.
Don't do math, kids.
I had a comment that asked me, like, what was the worst thing that my ex-mother-in-law has done to me? And I was going to reply to that comment, but now I can't find it. So the worst thing is she was talking to my kids about chores and stuff like that and how I was so mean. I was such a mean mom, and that she's sorry that they have such a mean mom. And the kids are relaying this information to me, right? And, you know, whenever they tell me stuff, I listen, I hear them out, and then we leave it alone. And the reason why I 100% believe what they said is because of how she said it. So according to the kids, she said, I'm so sorry you have such a mean mom. I would never. And I remember one time she told me those exact words. Exact words. Me and my mom had gotten into an argument. I was clearly upset. She acted like a shoulder to cry on. She acted like she was being very supportive of me, and I let her know everything that happened. And I confided in her, and I told her everything that was said between me and my mom in the argument. I told her why it happened, everything. And she said those exact words. I'm so sorry you have a mom like that. I would never. And in the moment, I was very emotional. So I was like, I know, right? Like, how mean. And like, now that I look back on it though, it was just her way of sneaking her way in. And then, I mean, there was one time me and her had gotten into an argument, and she threw the argument me and my mom had in my face. And it's like, I came to you in a moment of weakness, and I let you know what was going on. I let you in. And then just for you to throw it in my face like that, like, so whenever the kids said those exact words, I knew they did come out of her mouth, because I've heard them come out of her mouth about my mom. And I saw through it, luckily. And I think the kids do too. So, but yeah, that's one of the worst things is she just can't leave the kids out of it. She has to constantly be putting, like, she's planting little seeds every time they go over, and she's hoping that they germinate and grow into hatred for me. It's like, why would you ever want anybody to hate their mom? It doesn't make any sense.
Here's just one of the things that my mother-in-law has done within the span of over 10 years that has caused me to want to lose my shit. And in fact, I did lose my shit. So it's our wedding day and we're at our reception, and my mother-in-law and my father-in-law are divorced. My father-in-law came to the wedding with his new wife, which she has been very aware of. And let's just say that as soon as he walks into the reception, she walks up to him, asks him what the hell he's doing there, and slaps him. Yes, that's right. My mother-in-law slapped my father-in-law in front of everyone at our reception. I could probably have 30 plus story times just on things my mother-in-law has done to drive me fucking crazy.
Story time. So there was this one time I went to go pick up the kids from their dad, and we meet halfway at a gas station, right? So they get in the car. I say, hey, did y'all have fun? And they were noticeably different. Like, they were sad, like something happened. But I don't like asking questions. I don't like to be the one, like, what's wrong? What happened? Like, what'd you do? I don't ask questions. Like, if they want to tell me, cool. If not, cool. So they were different. They were acting different. So I didn't say anything. We had dinner. I got them ready for bed. They were still acting kind of off. And I gave them a big hug, and I squeezed them, and I gave them a kiss on their forehead, and I was like, good night, I love you, good night. And my oldest, he's 11, his name's Giovanni, he just started bawling. So my oldest is crying in my arms at this point, and then my daughter comes up and she hugs me, and I reach around to hug her, and she starts crying too. And so they're both sitting there crying, saying that their nana told them, my ex-mother-in-law, Karen, she told them that they were going to get taken away from me and that they were going to go live with their dad. And that it was okay soon, that they wouldn't have to deal with me and all this stuff. And that she told them that I was really mean and that they deserve so much better and all this stuff. And like, almost like coaching them into thinking it would be better if they go lived with their biological dad. So I'm upset, like really upset. And I'm about to call their dad, right? So he says he has no idea that his mom was saying this stuff to the kids. I said, bullshit. Like, you had to have known. Like, how is she going to take the kids from me to go move in with you and you not know? Like, how do you not know this? So he was just like, no, I really had no idea. And I was like, well, you need to step up to her and tell her, like, hey, don't be putting this shit in my kids' heads. And he's like, well, I would really like to, but anytime I try to stand up to her, she threatens to take her help away from me. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he was like, I have nobody to help me with the kids on the days that I have them. So on days that I'm on call and stuff like that, I need somebody here with the kids. And if I stand up to her, she'll take that help. And I'm like, dude, that's not love. That's manipulation. Like, that's what it is. And he was just like, I know, but there's nothing I can do about it. I need her to help me. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. Like, I'm so frustrated at this point. So I hang up the phone with him. And so my current husband was there while I was on the phone with my ex. And he hugs me and he sees I'm upset and he's like, what are you worried about? And I was like, they're trying to take the kids away. And he's like, have you been served with anything? And I was like, no. And he was like, so it's just, they're just talking shit right now. Like, that's all it is. He said, the kids clearly don't want to go. And he was like, what are you worried about? So I told him, I was like, this wouldn't upset you? And he's like, honestly, you're the best mom I know. He's like, that's why I married you. You are the best mom I know. So no, you shouldn't be worried about them taking your kids. And I looked at him and I cried and I laughed and I gave him a kiss. And I was like, you know what? You're right. Like, if I had just half the confidence he has in me, I think I could conquer the world, y'all.